Welcome to another edition of Ready, Set, College, your weekly destination for college knowledge. I am your host, Rob Schwartz. We have a very special guest in studio today. Before I introduce him, I've got a very quick story that I think will put a smile on your face. Today, while attending the Western Association of College Admission Counselors Share, Learn, Connect event at Occidental College, where I work with colleagues and friends from around the region to essentially become a better college counselor, I was ascending a set of stairs, talking to some colleagues, getting ready to walk into a lecture hall when I ran into a tree. I don't know if you can see it on camera, Furman. Perhaps you can highlight this spot right here. I ran into a tree and I lost. One of the more embarrassing things I've ever done in my entire life. So anytime I get high on my bridges, feel free to send me an email or give me a call and say, hey, aren't you the same guy who ran into a tree at a conference? So that's free of charge. Let's dial things back in. Let's get to our special guest. He is the Director of Admission at UCLA. Gary Clark, I am so glad to have you in the studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
For those watching at home, counselors, students, parents, we're talking about the most applied to school in the United States of America. Proudly my alma mater, and there's so many things that there is a perception that everyone knows a school like a UCLA. But I think you're going to find there's a lot of things you may not necessarily understand. And one of the reasons why I asked Gary to be here is to give a more broad understanding of what's going on, not just within UCLA, but the UC system as a whole. So before we touch on those things, let me turn the floor over to Gary. Let him give you a proper introduction. Where did he come from and why is he here today?
Sure. I grew up in Virginia. I grew up in Virginia and went to a place called Christopher Newport University, which is a public university in the state. I was the first person in my family to go to college. College significantly changed the trajectory of my life, had a big impact on the way I see the world. And so I really sought out the career of admissions. It was something that appealed to me while I was an undergrad. So I worked briefly at the College of William & Mary. Also back in Virginia, moved out to California in '99, where I spent 6 years at Pitzer College, one of the Claremont colleges, before spending the following 7 years at USC. So it's ironic that I'm now at UCLA. I get a lot of friends who give me a hard time about that, but the opportunity to be the director at UCLA was something that I couldn't pass up. We can make a big difference there, so I've enjoyed it.
What stands out for me, and hopefully for those of you watching at home, is looking at the diversity of the places you've been gives you a very clear and worldly understanding of the way college admissions is really supposed to work. Mm-hmm. You've got a large public school, you've got a large private school, you've got a small private school, you've got a medium-sized private school. I mean, you've seen a lot of different facets of how it's supposed to work, and I think you're able to take that knowledge and frankly improve on what's already a very good system at UCLA.
Sure. Well, no, I appreciate you saying that. I think I've been fortunate. I've loved every place that I've been a part of, and I feel like I've learned something different from each of them. But I can say without hesitation that the bones and the structure of what we've done in each admission process is really the same. The commitment is the same regardless of the size of the institution, public or private, that we want to give a very thorough read of the applications. We want to honor the work and the time that students have put into making themselves a strong applicant. And we want to take the time to read each and every part of that application to ensure that we're really giving them their due consideration. So while the mechanics might be a little bit different, the structure and the commitment of what we're doing in each of those processes is the same.
And knowing how many students, so to speak, come through the doors with an application, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, counting the transfer students this year, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 112,000 kids.
That's correct. 92,000 freshmen, 20,000 transfer.
So, all right, I got it right. Hey, how about that? It's an enormous undertaking to ask a group of people in 3 months to evaluate that many students and be frank and true to each one of those kids. And one of the things that I've come to know is that every single one of those essays is read multiple times by multiple people, that there is a true goal of making sure we get it 100% right, and that's a really important part of the process.
It is. I mean, it would be easy with that kind of volume to cut corners or to be formulaic in the approach that we take to admissions, but we're not, which is why it's pretty grueling. It's intense. We get a lot of help in the read process, but every freshman application is read at least twice before a decision is made, and I mean read. If we wanted to fill our class with just nothing but the highest GPA and SAT scores, we could use an Excel spreadsheet and fill our class in an hour. But we read every application thoroughly. We read it twice, and we spend a lot of time with these applications before we make decisions. So we're committed to that.
Now, we're just getting started here. We haven't even peeled back the curtain just yet. So we're going to cover a number of things. We're going to start with sort of an update on what's going on in the UCLA universe, other than basketball, which I'm sure you guys have paid attention to at this point in time. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more to cover with Gary Clark, the Director of Admission from UCLA. We'll be right back.